Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hello, hope you're doing well, and welcome to another sketchbook session. If you're not familiar with the format, this is basically a type of video that I do on occasion in which everything is just a whole lot more casual, and it's also very much a space where I invite any of y'all who might be needing some downtime to just come and relax and hang out, maybe have a cup of tea, or draw along with me if you would like to. Obviously, I'm also going to be drawing some stuff today, as well as just kinda generally rambling about whatever nonsense may currently be occupying my brain. If you are already familiar with this whole sketchbook session kind of setup though, you might remember that a little while ago I made one of these in which I was drawing kind of a new outfit for one of my D&D characters called Felix. If you do want a bit more context for kind of who Felix is as a character and the setting of the campaign that he's a part of before diving into this video, then I would recommend checking out that previous one. I'm pretty sure I went over a lot more of the kind of general info about him in that video, like backstory, context, campaign setting, that kind of thing. So I will try and pop a link on screen for you guys right now if you do want to go back and watch that one first. I think really though the main things that you would need to know about Felix are mostly just that he is a warlock with a squid-based patron called Kevin, and that I play him in a totally just for fun, just at home, just with friends kind of campaign called Curious Case. Today though, I wanted to dive just a bit deeper than that kind of surface info because myself and my friends from that campaign recently finished playing through another chapter, or like another story arc, whatever you want to call it, I guess. And originally this was just going to be another fashion drawing type video because the outfits we all had during that arc were really fun, but there ended up being like a bunch of really tasty scenes and like character interaction moments throughout the chapter that I really wanted to try and visualize. So today I am putting pen to paper, or I suppose tablet pen to tablet touchpad, with the age-old question in mind. Fellas, is it gay to be a warlock? If we're looking at just this campaign, the answer would increasingly seem to be yes. But don't worry about that for now, we'll probably get onto that later. So, this will probably become more evident as I continue through the video, but going into this right off the bat, I actually really wanted to try and do more of a messy kind of arrangement of drawings than I normally would. Kind of like how a lot of people's actual paper sketchbooks tend to be, where there's just like a bunch of different drawings of all different shapes and sizes, all sharing the canvas at once. Normally, even when I'm working on actual paper, I still find it quite hard to just cut loose and not just limit myself to doing one single polished drawing per page and, you know, actually embrace the chaos a bit instead. So I did have a lot of fun just kind of spilling all of my ideas together onto one very cluttered canvas like this. I would recommend it. It's also probably worth mentioning I did not draw this selection of doodles in anything close to chronological order in terms of exactly when they happened story-wise. They were all pretty close together, it was like a one session after another kind of thing, but as we go through, I'm just going to try and do my best to give you all the context behind them, but just, you know, fair warning, there might be a bit of topic hopping, but, well, let's be real, that's hardly a new thing for me, so hopefully you guys are just used to my particular brand of non-linear storytelling by now. Anyway, like I said, Felix, who is one of the people you will see on this canvas today, is a warlock, and Kevin, the floating squid, is his patron. I believe I showed you guys last time around the rough example of what Kevin usually looks like, but I'll pop it alongside here on the screen now just as a reminder. And then I will ask that you kindly put that mental image to one side for the rest of this video, because turns out that that little cartoon squid is not actually the only thing that Kevin can look like. During the story arc we just finished playing through, we were all basically attending this kind of interdimensional murder mystery dinner party, and at various points throughout our time there, we were also introduced to a couple of Kevin's other appearances, which none of our player characters had previously seen in the campaign. This first drawing you can see me working on here was specifically the moment in which Felix and two of the other player characters in the party accidentally stumbled upon Kevin's real body, which is to say they stumbled upon a gigantic eldritch sea monster which rushed at them, quite frighteningly. My buddy Aaron, who DMs the campaign, is insanely good at the spooky stuff and painting a very vivid, detailed mental picture of said spooky stuff, so it was just a really cool and really terrifying moment to experience in the game. And it was made even more spooky by the little hourglass that you can see Felix holding here. This is kind of a long side story, and very much one of the topic jumpy kind of tangents that I gave you all the heads up about a moment ago, but basically Kevin is not only Felix's patron. There is another patron, another warlock of his out there called Gabriel, who is just this very creepy guy who we think forced Kevin into, I think that maybe we need to investigate that. The assumption is that he forced Kevin into a pact with him, not by choice, and is now trying to gain sole control over him. I'm pretty sure I've drawn Gabriel in my own time before, not on the channel, but I do have a drawing of him lying around somewhere, so I will try to pop that drawing on screen here so you can at least put a face to the name. But long story short anyway, this hourglass has been present during a handful of, I would describe them as nightmares, let's call them shared dreams, that Gabriel has dragged Felix into, and it has some kind of bodily or spiritual connection to Kevin. So when we got into this new area of the kind of interdimensional tea party location that we were in for this part of the campaign, and this hourglass that Felix now had in his possession started going crazy, it was just like this really chilling onset moment of realization where Felix was just like, oh, I think I know what's in the water. And it wasn't anything good. And yeah, it was just really fun to try and recreate some of that palpable fear in this drawing. And I know certainly for Erin, who again is one of the DMs for this campaign in which all of this stuff is happening, our fear as players is one of her favorite things. Our reactions to the spooky things, she's let us know many a time that it sparks a lot of joy to see, but you know, none of us are complaining. We're happy to contribute our fear and our terror, and I think literally while I was working on this video, Erin messaged me on Discord and was like, hey man, can you just tell me this one thing? And I was like, that's a very specific question, Erin, why'd you need that information for? And she was like, don't worry about it. And I think we were having a conversation about the fact that like the spooky stuff in this campaign is so fun, and like both player and DM, we both enjoy the fear that circulates in light of it. And I think my exact phrasing at one point was, just fuck me up, to be honest. Which, you know, is a statement that can only ensure good things for the future of Felix's mental health in this campaign. But, you know, we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. The next doodle I hopped onto anyway was actually the other first encounter that happened during this recent chapter. This time around though, I wanted to draw a snippet of the conversation that Felix had with his patron here after laying eyes on his humanoid appearance for the first time during this whole dinner party situation. And this was very much more of a goofy moment than a serious or a scary one. It was definitely bookended by some serious plot stuff either side, but I remember having so much fun playing out this back and forth conversation where pretty much after realizing that this tall purple man was indeed the squid that had been living rent-free in his head for quite some time up until now, Felix was just like, clearly you have no idea of how to appeal to the people whose heads you inhabit, because you could have looked like this the whole time, and you went with the floating sea creature in sunglasses instead. What is wrong with you? It was real fun. And now that I think about it, actually, I'm pretty sure this is the first time that I've ever drawn Kevin's humanoid appearance myself. But I was really happy with how it turned out. He ended up being super fun to draw, and you know, hopefully looking at him here, you can understand why maybe Felix was feeling a little bit shortchanged by the fact that he'd only ever seen the cartoon squid version of his patron up until this point. When I was initially sketching all of these as well, I was planning on including Kevin's ridiculous, like, Gurren Lagann sunglasses, because he does still have those in the design that Erin drew up for him for his human appearance, but because I ended up doing kind of more of a black and white manga line work kind of art style for all of these, mostly I just didn't want to, like, layer darker sort of ink on top of dark ink that's already there and like cover up all of the hard work I was doing on the faces. So, you know, the sunglasses might not be on this canvas physically, but they're there in spirit. I'm pretty sure with they're always there in spirit. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this kind of sketch doodle drawing time in particular, because I really love anything where you can see the characters properly like emoting and interacting and having like an exchange of action and reaction. The fact that I ended up using Clip Studio for these as well also really made it feel like I was drawing a panel straight out of a comic. So I did also end up slapping a little speech bubble alongside this one when I was done drawing it, just to, I don't know, immortalize that, that frustration that Felix was maybe feeling in this moment. So my intention as I made progress on this page was that the drawings would end up getting smaller and faster with each one that I did, mostly because I had kind of assumed that the first one I already did would have been the one that took the longest. But what actually ended up happening was just the complete opposite. Both this drawing and the next one ended up taking the longest time out of any of them, so I don't know if there is a lesson to be learned from this. I feel like there's one that I should maybe learn, which... something to the tune of, don't presume to know how long a drawing is going to take me, because I do not dictate how much detail my brain will decide a drawing needs until I am currently doing the drawing. There is simply no way to know. But anyway, the moment I was trying to visualize in this drawing was something that happened kind of towards the end of a bit of combat. I can't remember when it was exactly. It would have been either when I straight up just forgot that one of my spells was supposed to do 2 sort of blasts of damage instead of 1, and we had to kind of go back and add the extra shot in after the fact, or it would have just been like a turn where I got a pretty decent dice roll. But either way, basically there was this one moment towards the end of the fight where Felix was casting a big inky eldritch blast with his like trident, and then Kevin, who had kind of just stumbled onto the battlefield a bit after everybody else, came up and gripped Felix's shoulder to give him like an extra Patron-powered power boost. There's probably a better, more alliterative way I could have described that, but I am not currently in possession of a single brain cell, so we just gotta take what we can get, you know what I mean? Anyway, pretty much it was just one of those moments where a bunch of pieces happened to coincide and come together to make a really cool mental image in my mind's eye, and I really wanted to try and capture it. I do remember doing a handful of really quick stick figure kind of roughs in my actual paper sketchbook though, kind of before settling on this looking down the lens angle. And the reason I wanted to at least like try out a handful of different kind of stick figure placements and perspectives before like just diving straight into this one, was because I really didn't know where the characters could go in a composition like this. Mostly because there was a lot I was trying to factor in, namely like the big trident that Felix was holding, and then also the actual physical placement of the characters, as well as the points of contact between them, namely the hand on Felix's shoulder here. So yeah, in other words, it just kind of took me a hot minute to figure out an arrangement that would actually work and look good without leaving either of the characters being body blocked by each other or obscuring any of those key details. The angle I went with in the end here wasn't exactly easy to work with though, even though it was the best option I could come up with. I ended up spending a lot of time adjusting Felix's eyes and his hair because they weren't quite positioned or proportioned right. I don't even quite know what was wrong with them for like the opening portion of this little chunk here, but it was really throwing me off quite a bit. However, in the end, I do really like how this one turned out. Like, I think the perspective of the trident prongs, having them like coming directly at the camera like this, ended up looking really cool, and then having like the ink swirling around both of the characters gave everything a kind of directional flow. Is that the word? Like, it leads your eye around is what I'm trying to say. And even some of the anatomy details as well, as much as they definitely did give me trouble with this one, I am actually quite happy with how they turned out. So yeah, I think my main takeaway from this particular drawing is that, honestly, I just don't think I do enough pieces with like this much focus on lines of action as I probably should. But yeah, when I was, you know, working on this one, and certainly when I was making adjustments to it, I was very consciously trying to think like, oh, which direction or like angle should I have this particular piece going in to kind of enhance the oomph. The oomph. That's a technical term, the oomph of the drawing. Yeah, hopefully you guys know what I mean when I say that. The impact? Maybe that's the word the flow, the direction, line of action. There is a thought in my head somewhere, I promise, but it really is struggling to make itself coherent. I think the point I was trying to get to, I don't know what point we've arrived at, my train of thought has been thoroughly derailed, but the point I think I was trying to get to is that, like, if you're trying to make a dynamic picture, which I was trying to do here, having, like, certain directions and, like, having certain parts of the elements of your picture run parallel to each other or run in opposing angles to each other, or like have certain curves included in the composition. All of that directional stuff really helps to enhance that kind of dynamic energy. The day may never come when I remember the word I was trying to find during my previous sentences, but hopefully now the idea I was trying to get to makes at least a bit of coherent sense. And with that, we're going to move on to the next one. Now, this last drawing ended up being easily my favorite one out of all of these, and something tells me that for some of you guys watching along at home right now, you might end up agreeing with that sentiment once you see how it all comes together here. For no particular reason, I'm sure. Although, on a completely unrelated note, I feel like now would perhaps be the best moment to quickly remind you guys of the question I posed at the top of this video, which I believe was, does Warlocks is gay? The rumor come out. Again, I have no brain cells and a lot of coffee in me, so I'm very sorry for the energy in the studio today. So this particular sketch is based on a scene that was very much related to that hourglass tangent I was talking about before. Basically in the midst of this whole, like, squid boy power struggle that Felix is currently caught up in because Gabriel wants Kevin's powers all to himself. Felix got shown, like, a memory from Kevin's perspective, because it was one of Kevin's memories, of a particularly threatening and spooky interaction that Kevin had quite recently found himself subject to at the hands of Gabriel. There were a lot of thoughts and feelings and plot nuggets wrapped up in all of this, and like I said before, Erin is just a really good writer and storyteller when it comes to all of these kind of spooky dream sequence kind of things, but also when it comes to weaving in like phrases and pieces from previous sessions to, just really drive home those emotional story beats. It is painful, but it is so tasty. So yeah, the long and short of this particular drawing is that Felix had just seen and felt some very intense things by way of this second-hand dream sequence type memory sharing situation, and kind of just decided that both him and Kevin could really use a hug in that moment, which in and of itself was a really sweet little moment to again get to kind of play out in the session, because Felix kind of started his journey in this campaign as a very, prim and proper, closed-off, fancy man Mr. No Friends, and it's character growth, baby! We're here for it! It's tasty! It's really fun. This is like, it's the turnaround, it's the journey. But I will say as well that it's not pure fluff in the fluff moments of this campaign, because the immediate aftermath of this kind of snapshot of a drawing of a moment was really funny, because Erin had Kevin just sort of react to this spontaneous hug decision by just kind of being like, okay, bro, I do not know where to put my hands right now, and I physically cannot stop my mouth from making words, and it was very in character. It was a great time. Putting the actual, like, plot, I guess, behind this sketch to one side for a moment, though, I am genuinely just really, really happy with the way that this one ended up looking visually. It always feels very hit or miss when I draw characters in profile view like this as to whether I'm going to really, really enjoy it, or it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. But thankfully this time around, it was nothing but fun. Both the poses and the anatomy ended up feeling really solid while I was sketching them out. I've been trying to get more up to speed with, like, shape-based anatomy lately, and just anatomy that feels like it has more of a not geometric, but like, building block kind of structure to it. And this really felt like it was hitting the mark on that front. And I was also happy because the characters are obviously interacting pretty closely here. But even so, neither of them ended up looking wildly out of proportion from each other, which was something that I was kind of worried about when I was like midway through the sketch, but it's cool, it worked out fine, we're groovy. I've always just really liked how the inking pens in Clip Studio feel to draw with, so doing the clean line work over top of the sketch was also really satisfying to work on. Now, before this drawing is over, I do want to take a moment here really quick to mention that, like, I know I've already talked about Erin and her amazing dungeon mastering skills a couple of times in this video, and I also know that last time when I drew Felix here on the channel, I did also mention Bree, who is the other absolutely fantabulous co-DM for this Curious Case campaign. However, I would still like to just speak it out into the universe, maybe let you guys know if you weren't aware already. Bree and Erin are both, for one thing, super talented artists and friends and colleagues of mine who I just forever feel very lucky to have ever been invited to play D&D with and have gotten to know in the first place. Surprise, Bree and Erin, it's you appreciation hours, and you have to deal with it because it's in the video now. I've already edited it in. But also, a note that is probably a lot more relevant to you guys watching at home, as opposed to me just wanting to appreciate and embarrass my friends. Bree and Erin do both have their own online art accounts and presences and pages, to which they post their fantastic artwork, and sometimes that artwork has to do with the Curious Case campaign. I'm pretty sure Erin recently posted a bunch of character designs from the chapter that we just played, the chapter that all of the scenes I drew today were based on, as well as another drawing of a pretty fluffy moment between these two here, squid boys. I don't really know how else to describe them, so that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, although this is, once again, just a home campaign with friends, we don't broadcast it, you guys can't watch the actual sessions that these drawings are depicting. I've just personally been hyper-focusing on it lately, and I really wanted to share some of that energy. You can still absolutely go and check out more Curious Case-related artwork if you would like to. And I'm going to be putting both Erin and Bree's links down in the description so that you can go and do exactly that if you fancy. I also want to make it doubly clear as well with regards to all of the characters I mentioned today. Obviously, Felix is my own player character, so I made him, but both Kevin and Gabriel are characters who came straight out of Erin's brain. They are of her design. Potentially Bree's as well. Now that I think about it, I actually can't remember what the divvying up process was for these particular two characters, since you guys just cannot physically stop making so many amazing characters all the time. But either way, the designs of Kevin and Gabriel are not mine. I am just here to appreciate them, and in Gabriel's case, be quite frightened of them. Anyway, while this final artwork did take the longest time, it is nearly done now. The only finishing touch I did not end up capturing on screen was that once I stopped recording, I did go back and put a nice pinky purple kind of gradient under each of these drawings, just to really fill out the forms and make the silhouettes a lot clearer. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and if you are indeed still here watching along, then thank you for hanging out with me today while I basically just info dumped about these goofy D&D characters that I have been absolutely buzzing about this week. The fully finished versions of today's artworks are all going to be up at the end of the video in just a moment, so do stick around if you want to take a look at them. But if you want to take an even closer look, then there are going to be links down in the description to the full-sized uploads. For now anyway, I think that's quite enough of me rambling, so I hope you're all staying as safe, happy, and healthy as you possibly can, and I will see you next time. Thanks once again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I'm pretty sure most of you will have already heard of Squarespace before now, but just to refresh your memory, Squarespace are a website building platform that allows you to build your own fully customizable website. Need to make an online portfolio? You could build your own from scratch using the image blocks feature, or begin with a professionally designed template. You can also equip your online store with password-protected pages for secret bonus content, and set your website up to automatically cross-post content to your social media, update a blog, allow visitors to sign up for mailing lists, view your insights, and a whole bunch more. As you can see, Beth from the Shrieking Wizard Co team made use of a bunch of these features when constructing our team's official website with Squarespace, so we can definitely recommend it from experience. If you want to try it out for yourself, you can access the free trial at squarespace.com, and once your new website is ready to roll, you can get a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or domain at squarespace.com/abdillustrates.